Halo Infinite, its multiplayer component surprise launched on November 15th, 2021, and just about everyone agrees that, mechanically speaking, gameplay-wise, it is just a really, really awesome game. Tons of fun to play, it looks great, and that extra year they took to refine everything really paid off. But what's marring the experience right now is how 343 is handling the game's monetization and progression. And while I understand that Halo Infinite, the multiplayer, is free to play, that doesn't mean a company should be able to get away with anything in terms of business tactics and monetization. And there are lines you can cross even if you are a free to play game. And with Halo Infinite, it feels like that's exactly what's happening. And so plenty of people have taken to social media and forums to complain in the hopes that 343 fixes the progression and monetization issues, as this game truly does have the potential to be the best first-person shooter competitive game in a long time. Like, it's just that good, but that potential is just so heavily weighed down by how poorly the monetization and the progression has been implemented. And you can see right here, even with all the criticisms on Steam, Halo Infinite has a mostly positive review of 79%, but this score could be so much higher with just addressing the myriad complaints that people have. And the player base is decently strong, but with how progression isn't rewarding enough currently, there are people who are dropping off, but you can see that it's a pretty good peak, and this number can continue to grow if they make the right and appropriate fixes and strive to please the community by finding a more balanced way to implement monetization and progression. And I'm sure many of you have heard about this by now, but the biggest complaint Halo Infinite is facing is the way the Battle Pass works, with how it isn't like other competitive multiplayer games where you earn experience points through matches and it always feels like you're making some form of progression. In Halo Infinite, progress is governed strictly by completing challenges, whereas other games reward you for simply playing. And these challenges can be simple things, but a lot of them can also be obscure and unnatural feats like kill 15 enemy spawns with a sidekick pistol in PvP, and that essentially forces you into playing the way the challenges want you to play instead of you being able to make your own fun and be rewarded for having fun and for being skilled at the style of gameplay you enjoy. You have to do it strictly through the challenges. That's how you progress and gain the cosmetics and all that stuff, and it's just not a satisfying way to do things. And on top of that, the progression is just so freaking slow that it's just too much of a grind for the progression to feel enjoyable. The Kotaku article here continues, players have daily and weekly challenges to work towards during each session. The bulk of XP comes from the weekly ones, which if combined offer about 5 levels of progress on the Battle Pass. And the end result of how it's implemented is that gearing the entire grind around these challenges takes away from the fun of just playing Halo, of just diving in and just having fun, doing what you want to do, and still making progress, with challenges being something on the side you can pursue, but not being limited strictly to having to do these challenges and having to play exactly how the challenges want you to play. So an example provided here, you can have a fantastic round of capture the flag where you're owning enemies and just frickin' destroy the enemy team, and barely see the XP meter for your Battle Pass creep forward because you didn't tackle the specific challenges that the game set for you. And like with many other live services, the reason progression is intentionally made to be grindy is to incentivize players to spend money on the microtransaction store. Halo Infinite's multiplayer is completely supported by microtransactions, given that it is free to play. You can of course rank up the Battle Pass simply by pulling out your credit card so you can expedite the process. And again, in a free-to-play title, some of that can be tolerated as long as it's within reason, but with Halo Infinite, it does not feel like it's reasonable in its current state. This current setup is just not fun. Most games have found a way to make weekly challenges more of a bonus rather than the centerpiece of the progression system. And so that's why I've been seeing prominent pundits of the games industry tweet stuff like this. So I've played Halo Infinite for 6 hours and now the gameplay's fun and addictive. The main thing I dislike is the Battle Pass progression. That really needs to be looked at. Here is YouTuber SkillUp, who said, my impressions of Halo, one of the best competitive PvP experiences I've had in years, combined with basically the worst Battle Pass I've ever seen. This Battle Pass is so bad it makes the game less fun by forcing you to do annoying bullshit, and so stingy it feels pointless to grind it. basically a summary of what everyone is echoing in their sentiments. Layer that on top of a general sense that stuff being sold on the marketplace, that the microtransactions are far too expensive, and you've got a situation where this just feels overly egregious, even for a free-to-play game. Now, Halo developers have been quick to communicate, which at least is a plus. And back in November 16th, 2021, a day after the multiplayer launch, Brian Gerard, the community director at 343, tweeted this: FYI, the team is looking at Battle Pass progression and gathering data from yesterday's sessions and will share updates as we have them. Please continue to share feedback and raise flags as you see them. So that's certainly an encouraging sign. And then the day after, on November 17th, 2021, 343 community manager John Junicek tweeted some of the changes that they were going to implement as a first step to try to fix the woes that people have against the progression system of Halo Infinite's multiplayer. So one of the changes is the addition of a play one game challenge that's a daily thing you can do and earn some experience that way, which, does help. Then in the tweets that follow, he tweeted how they'll be adjusting, fixing bugs with, and removing some weekly challenges based on your feedback, and these tunings to challenges difficulty will help you progress through weekly challenges faster. Now with this update, it was warned how they'll need to reset challenges, but to make up for this, they're giving out something for free, granting this week's ultimate reward, the Sigil Mark 7 visor, to everyone who logs in from November 23rd to November 30th. And then when it comes to XP boost, whereas before it was limited to 30 minutes, they have doubled that time, that duration, to last an hour. And it was emphasized as only our first step, that more changes are coming. These are just initial things that they're doing in the short term. These changes went live on November 18th, 2021, and seeing the feedback on social media and online, there were people who definitely said it is a noticeable improvement, but still not enough. There's still a lot of work left to do. And then some new controversy cropped up surrounding daily challenge XP. Was previously 100 XP each for the first 3 matches. Now it's 50 XP, and it's not clear whether this was an intentional downgrade or if the previous amount was an error or a one-time thing. But it is detailed by Halo support here how the play one game daily challenge is worth 50 XP each. So as long as you log in every day and play one game, you'll earn that experience, which helps towards the incredibly grindy and slowly paced progression. Now, head of creative at 343, Joseph Staten, insisted that in this current state, the multiplayer is in a beta, and they have said that in the past that this release is still very much in beta form. But this live service has gone live. They're able to pay for the battle pass and the microtransactions. There is progression happening. Events are occurring. You can say that this game is still in beta, but it might as well have launched at this stage. Now, unfortunately, over the coming days, backlash would only intensify because of how 343 handled this new event called Fracture Tenrai, arriving next week as of November 19th, and the progression of that has been widely criticized. For those who don't know what this event is, it basically introduces its own battle pass that gives you various unique rewards themed around Japanese aesthetics and culture and whatnot. And there are more upcoming events detailed in this screenshot, also published by the official Halo Twitter page. So there's plenty to look forward to, but with how Fracture Tenrai is being handled, the mood just isn't very positive right now. Fracture Tenrai specifically is an event that will be available for 1 week and will return 5 more times throughout Season 1, giving players plenty of chances to finish all 30 tiers, so claims Noah Benesh here, marketing lead for Halo. But people notice that due to how slow the grind is, the intention here isn't that you'll have multiple chances to have a week to complete a rotation, but rather this event is meant to be completed throughout the course of those 5 weeks. It is not possible to complete this Battle Pass, this event, in the 1 week allotted every time this event is introduced, as one Twitter user asked. So basically you can't finish it in 1 weekly rotation, obviously to reel in the whales who will just swipe their way to max and avoid the time gate. Now Noah Benesh tried to assuage things by responding with this: correct, you will not be able to finish all 30 tiers of the event pass in week 1. However, Fracture Tenrai will return 5 more times throughout the season. Also, while you can use challenge swaps for event challenges, players can't purchase tier skips for the event pass, but this doesn't change the fact that intentionally making it so that you cannot finish all 30 tiers in 1 week and having to wait for the numerous different weeks where this event will be reintroduced is just not a good idea. It is just not a fun way to make players feel like they're progressing and earning rewards at a good and balanced pace. And so that's why we're seeing tweets like and responses like, this is actually just a terrible system. So you're basically making it so if players join the game with only one fracture left in the season, they can't finish it. Yikes, etc. And challenge swaps, for those who don't know, is an item you can use in order to remove objectives from challenges and basically makes it easier to complete that challenge. And guess what? You can buy those with real money. You can buy those with credits. And so there is an option to pay to ease your way through the progression. And so many are assuming that's part of the intention to incentivize people to buy more of these challenge swaps in order to mitigate the grind and the tedious nature of some of these challenges that make for a really insufferable progression system. Now here we have a Forbes article that specifies what you get out of the Fracture Tenrai event pass. Scrolling down, you'll find a bullet list breaking down what the 30 rings contain pretty well. 6 challenge swaps, 10 XP grants, 1 epic background, 1 samurai emblem, but in 4 ranks, a nameplate vehicle, weapon, and armor emblem, 1 legendary weapon coating, 2 epic weapon coatings, and 5 legendary armor cosmetics, 2 shoulders, 1 helmet attachment, and 1 utility sword belt. Some of the complaints surrounding this include how the microtransaction store and its rotating items seem to have a lot more cosmetics than this event pass itself. Many fans are already displeased with this. This adds to ongoing cosmetic debates about what's unlockable and what isn't, and why certain cosmetics only work within certain cores. And with how progression is poorly handled, the requirements for some of the stuff that you earn to even be usable is ridiculous. You need to get to at least rank 5 to unlock the Yoroi core to even layer these cosmetics on top of it. And in an article the following day, the same editor, Paul Tassi, after having delved deep into this event, detailed why he believes this might be the worst live service event I've ever seen. He broke down his issue and basically the community at large's issue with how this is implemented as follows. So what are the problems with it? To start, you do not progress with XP, as I've previously detailed. You have to complete specific challenges related to the Fiesta event playlist. So on top of the specificity of the normal battle pass, there's even more specific challenges for this specific event that have to be completed to progress through this battle pass. And it wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for the fact that you'll almost immediately run out of event challenges and will have to go back to grinding out regular weekly challenges to even get further event challenges to appear. IGN further specifies how this is all compounded by how event challenges are mixed in with standard challenges, so there may be times where you have to complete various standard ones to even get another event one, which further extends the grind, especially for those who are seeking to specifically tackle the event one. There's also just a general lack of challenges to complete, just a total of 7 in this playlist this week. There are a total of 30 levels to the pass, and the grind being so slow means that you'll have to max those challenges out 5 times in order to unlock everything. Also, because you cannot complete this event in one rotation in 1 week and you have to basically wait until the event is reintroduced, it just creates a disparity in the way these rewards are doled out. The time gate creates bizarre situations like how you'll be unlocking 2 separate shoulder pads months apart and you cannot get enough tiers to get the other side until the next time this event shows up later in January. Then there's the fact that the battle pass just feels very padded out with how many of the rewards feel just like they shouldn't even be there. Half of the battle pass literally is just challenge skips and XP consumables, so this battle pass could have only been half as long and allowed people to complete it within a timely manner, but they intentionally stretched this out to, again, time gate this and to make people feel that frustration. Adding insult to injury is that only 1 of the samurai sets are available to be earned through the incredibly grindy gameplay. The other looks are being sold in microtransaction store, and some of those are time gated and may not return if you don't hurry up and purchase them by the time that they exit rotation, which kind of breeds that whole FOMO aspect to get people to hurry up before the offer ends and spend that money. And matters aren't helped by the fact that these items are way overpriced. Absurd. Forbes calls these prices, $15 for a sword on your waist belt and a collection of emblems, at least $50 worth of stuff being sold for this free event so far, where it will take you 5 weeks and 6 months to earn a complete free look. So it's incredibly grindy stuff. Some stuff's locked behind the microtransaction store, and even for those who want to purchase that stuff, it's so expensive that they'll have to spend way too much money. And it's not just news outlets reporting on this. You've got folks on the official Halo subreddit who are detailing their experience with this and how the way the battle pass is padded out is pretty egregious. So out of 30 tiers for this event, you only get 6 armor parts, 2 of which are the same shoulder pad that you need to unlock 2 times for both shoulders. Meanwhile, 343 sells a $25 armor set in the shop, which actually looks pretty good. I really want to like this game, 343, but goddamn, you make me want to hate it right now. They're just not making the experience rewarding enough for players who just want to play the game. It's not enough to just have a game that plays really great and is mechanically very sound. You need the progression to keep players hooked for the long term so they don't get bored with, aspects of the repetition. It's all about, the things that people look forward to. And when there is so little to look forward to in relation to the amount of time invested, people are going to start to fall out of it. Now, Brian Gerard, in a tweet from November 23rd, 2021, assured that the feedback is being heard loud and clear and that they're working towards fixing all of the issues and listening to the feedback and changing the game to reflect the feedback. Brian Gerard tweeted, "Been traveling, so slow to respond, but please know the constructive feedback is being heard loud and clear. Changes will take time, and our priority this week is giving the team a much-deserved break for the holiday after a long final stretch. Thank you for understanding," which is, reasonable enough, but a lot of people are getting the feeling of they should have known better than to release the game like this, not in terms of, the gameplay and the polish and all these things, but rather the monetization and progression elements, which are a core aspect of this gameplay loop, how they release the game like this and why it requires so much backlash for them to realize that this was clearly the wrong move is kind of baffling people. Matters are also not helped by the fact that generally the community isn't happy with how armor customization functions in this game. As explained by Dexerto here, armor can only be customized with 7-layer shaders that apply to all pieces of gear at once. You cannot customize the individual components. Rather than being able to fine-tune each bit of armor separately, these shaders take over the full set. Not only has player choice been limited, but armor coatings also happen to come at a steep cost. And so on Reddit, we're seeing posts like this. The community needs to push for a revision of the coding system, and people are presenting their own solutions, how textures can be sold separately. But when it comes to things like primary and secondary colors and basic colors that players can take advantage of, that stuff shouldn't be so limited. So this image posted by this Reddit poster reads, 343 should give us back control over primary and secondary colors, or give us access to the outer ring of colors. Each of these represent different parts of the armor and their color scheme. Give us access to the outer ring of colors in the current system for free, and then 343 can monetize new features such as the center circle pattern and texture options, which sounds pretty reasonable. This is just a feature that's been a staple of the Halo series, and for it to be downgraded so much for the sake of monetization is understandably rubbing people the wrong way. There's also another Reddit post presenting their own solution to this issue that's kind of going viral. The idea presented by this fan is to offer a customizable pattern that players can use to design their own armor coatings with different colors in specific areas. Kind of a similar concept to what the other Reddit poster presented, while still locking certain aspects of customization behind the paywall so that there are elements that 343 can reasonably monetize. Here's the Reddit post that details this potential solution with mock-ups and everything. This post has over 7,000 upvotes and an upvote ratio of 99%, with many people believing that this would be the perfect solution. So this is what the mock-up presents. An option on the left here, new menu item for custom options. And then moving on, individual armor core parts can be selected before moving to the color and texture options. Unselected core options will be darkened. And so you can see right here how this player in this mockup is selecting individual bits and pieces of the armor. And then from there, players could choose from a wide variety of basic color options from a color palette that doesn't have the full range of colors, but has enough that players can still customize to a certain degree individual components and still feel good about how their Spartan looks. And then down here, unique palettes will appear transparent with their credit value displayed over them. So for more specific color options with a more extensive palette, they could offer those for a certain amount of reasonable money. And that way there are elements of this that 343 is able to monetize without limiting players too much in their options, allowing players to pick out individual colors for individual components of their armor. And then the last image highlights an additional element where stuff like textures and patterns, that stuff can maybe be sold at a reasonable cost, and players can layer on top of that either the basic colors that are free or the additional color palettes that they have bought through the microtransactions. And that way, this is a system that will work for everyone, where everyone gets to win, as the current core system can remain for the more unique, complex designs. This system will also allow players to customize their Spartan on a basic level, leaving the more complex new features as purchasable items for further customization. This seems reasonable. This being a free-to-play game, this player isn't saying give everything for free. It's just saying give us enough options and give the system enough value by allowing us to customize those individual components, and that way buying the colors will feel worth it. And for players who don't want to buy those colors and don't want to spend too much money, they still have a decent amount of options through the basic color palette to still give them some customization agency. I think it's a really great compromise. But instead, what you have now are overpriced color options, a lot of them basic colors that don't even allow you to customize individual components. The shaders come in sets. The 7 colors around that ring are defined, and you cannot go in there and fine-tune things to your liking, which diminishes the value of those purchases. And because of how stingy this whole system feels, people are already coming up with calculations on how much money it would take to get everything that is locked behind some kind of paywall. Buying all of Halo Infinite Season 1 paid cosmetics could cost over $1,000, which is just, I mean, a lot of money, especially when the options to earn stuff through gameplay is so limited and so time-gated and so grind-gated. And then certain things you do earn through gameplay are so lame that it's kind of baffling. Here is a Reddit post that reads, "This is a scam," right? Over 33,000 upvotes. And you can see right here the default armor coating versus the level 99 Battle Pass armor coating that isn't free. The only change here is that the red has turned blue. The red lights here turn blue. That's the only difference for one of the later tier items in the Battle Pass. Level 99 in the Battle Pass. So this should be a much better reward, but all you get is a color swap for a very minor aspect of this particular armor. And then already unlocked armor coating right here versus level 14 Battle Pass armor coating that isn't free, where again it's just a color swap for just the lights of this armor. And when the rewards feel this half-assed, it just further diminishes that sense of progression and reward. There are also breakdowns of how long it takes to get through the game's Battle Pass, and there are obviously going to be variations from player to player, but the range generally seems to be between 150 and 300 hours, which would be fine if throughout those hours it felt like you were steadily progressing and steadily unlocking rewards, and if it felt like the game was well-paced on that front. As Forbes puts it aptly, the main issue is how progression feels rather than purely about hours invested. If those hours feel worthwhile, if you feel like you're being rewarded consistently enough throughout 150 to 300 hours, and people are willing to go through all of that. But because of how stingy things are in Halo Infinite's multiplayer currently, it's 150 to 300 hours that feel like they drag on forever. There are hundreds of hours that are just not satisfying to go through, because you can find yourself in situations where you can put some wild 25 to 2 game, just do really freaking awesome, and end up with nothing but 50 XP because you weren't completing the specific challenges that were laid out for you, and because this game doesn't have a play the game how you want and earn XP based on your performance kind of system. And the cherry on top of all of this are issues outside of progression and monetization, like how cheating is beginning to become a problem, with console players calling on 343 to let them disable crossplay to help mitigate this problem, as cheaters can bleed into other platforms. So yeah, as fun as Halo Infinite is, as great of a game as it is, progression and monetization are handled poorly enough that if you go to the Halo subreddit, for example, you'll see posts with tens of thousands of upvotes complaining about all of this, with many people agreeing, and it's just complaints after complaints, with people baffled by some of these decisions that are ruining a game that has so much potential to be among the best in the first-person competitive shooter landscape, and people just upvoting stuff that are very valid in terms of complaints and disappointments and things that 343 needs to rectify sooner rather than later, even if this is just the beta stage. Again, this is a game that is now commercially live. Some of the more prominent and noteworthy posts include people complaining about how at level 69, nice, you unlock green yet again, the rewards themselves not being satisfying, and then people just kind of sick and tired of having to complain this much for the developers to kind of realize how bad some of their decisions are. Is anyone else just tired of having to revolt against studios until their games are fixed? Some people baffled by how aspects of progression and customization and whatnot can regress when Halo's nailed it in the past. It took 11 years to get a worthy gameplay successor to Halo 3, and they're still somehow fucking it up. The worst monetization system of all time, no service record at all, not in-game, not on Halo Waypoint, etc. No way to progress through the Battle Pass without completely idiotic challenges that negatively affect how people play, no playlist variety, no vetoing, no voting, you name it. People complaining about the underwhelming nature of some of the microtransactions, like how they're selling basic blue at a price point that isn't justifiable when certain basic colors should just be default and given out for free. The lack of a proper playlist feature. Halo fans literally only want one thing, and it's freaking disgusting, and this is what's highlighted here, and people expressing how disappointing it is and upsetting it is that the Master Chief Collection had the best playlist search in a modern FPS, and Infinite comes out with LOL 3 playlists. People reminiscing on what was promised before when it comes to things like customization versus what we got now. So if we play this, for example, you can see some of the promises that were made back then.
The customization content that we have on day one ensures that there will be millions of customization combinations for Spartans on the battlefield. Coatings offer us a unique opportunity to craft some hyper-polished looks and let you express yourselves in ways you've never been able to before. We're coming at this from a player-first mentality. All of these rewards are single source, so you're never going to be confused about where things come from. If you can unlock something in the Battle Pass, we're not going to let any other players circumvent that by purchasing it out of the storefront.
A lot of our stuff is unlocked through playing the game and only through playing the game.
Except, of course, currently, so much is unlocked through direct microtransactions purchases that all of this just comes off really negatively in terms of optics. And so down here, people are saying stuff like, all of these rewards are single source, so you will never be confused where things come from. I gotta give them credit here. I clearly don't get confused. They all come from Battle Pass or the store. This whole idea of a player-first mentality and so much will be unlockable through just gameplay. It's just that it's not a promise that this game's currently living up to the degree that people had hoped. Finally, we have a post here questioning 343's intentions. Make no mistake, the things we have issues with here were 100% done on purpose. Yeah, it's the classic introduce severe issues so that people have to pay severely with real money for the solution. And again, this being a free-to-play game, there are certain things that they can get away with when it comes to monetization. But the lengths to which they've taken all of this is bad enough that it could potentially ruin the goodwill that Halo Infinite has built up because of how awesome its gameplay is. But 343 does seem to be communicating a lot, and I hope they're serious about listening to feedback and taking that feedback seriously enough where they don't just take half-assed measures, but rather implement genuine solutions that will bring about the fullest potential of Halo Infinite. So fingers crossed that they can pull themselves out of this, because I really want Halo Infinite to succeed. This game is just too good to kind of experience a downfall because of petty and stingy issues like this. 343, you've got something here. Now just, carry through and pull back on what needs to be pulled back. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is my take on everything going on with Halo Infinite, and these are sentiments expressed by a huge portion of the community and people who've played this game, gaming enthusiasts and the like. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on everything surrounding Halo Infinite and the myriad issues, whether you're having fun with this game, what your experience has been like with the progression and monetization aspects, what you'd like to see changed, and whether you think Halo Infinite has the potential to get out of this hole and make a comeback as far as goodwill and optics go that will pave the road to this game becoming one of the greats of this year. Share your thoughts below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.